You know what? I'm bored. Hey Stix, can you suggest a free-to-play MMORPG? You know what? Yes, I can. And you know what? I can actually do even better. I can go ahead and list you 10. See, every month I do a video titled free-to-play MMORPGs you should try in X month. This way, I can go ahead and include 10 different games for you guys to try out. 10 games that I then do not include in any top list video for the entire rest of the year. The goal of these videos is to, I guess, highlight more obscure games that perhaps you guys overlooked, or maybe games that you don't even know exist. Do note though, before you go and leave a comment stating that I didn't include this or that game in this video, it is very likely possible that I have already included that game in a previous top video sometime over the course of the year. As an example, Guild Wars 2, Blade and Soul, TERA, Vindictus, these are all games that have been included over the last few months. So let's take a few minutes here and spread around some love and jump into this video then, yeah? Although real quick, before we go ahead and jump into today's video, I would like to talk about today's sponsor, Entropia Universe. Entropia Universe is one of the most active sci-fi MMORPGs available right now. At its core, it functions as a traditional MMO, but it also allows players to both invest in or to earn in-game currency and then convert that into real-world currency. In essence, providing the ability to make a real-world living off of playing the game. And let's be real here, who doesn't want to make money playing video games, right? Entropia Universe features several large worlds to explore with a variety of different monsters to do battle with, tons of non-combat related activities to do like hunting, gathering, and crafting. It's definitely an interesting game. It's a bit different to what you're used to, and in my opinion, that makes it worth playing purely on that premise alone. Plus, I mean, the game is completely free. So if you haven't already, but you're looking for an MMO that offers that little something special, that's something unique, then I urge you to go ahead and click that link in the description in the pinned comment below to try the game out. Worst case scenario, you waste a few minutes of your time. On the other hand, you might find a game that you really ended up enjoying. Okay, so let's kick things off with Dragon Nest. This is a fantasy MMORPG with a very strong emphasis on PvP. The game was developed by and is currently published by Identity Games in 2011. There were several things that set Dragon Nest apart from the rest of the competition almost a decade ago. First, the game had, and still probably has, some of the best action combat in an anime MMO. Second, the game utilized a hub where you could converse with a ton of different players, you could group up, you could tackle dungeons of varied increasing difficulty. The game has definitely had a substantial decline in terms of population, and that's mostly due to how poorly Nexon managed the game over their time as publisher. And if you have played any of Nexon's games ever, you know exactly how bad they are as a publisher and probably why the game was so poorly received. Despite all of this, I get repeated requests to take an updated look at how it's doing and constant comments asking why I haven't included it in a top 10 video yet. Aion's a little different of a title. It has two different publishers, NCSoft in North America and Gameforge in Europe. The game was initially released back in 2009 as a pay-to-play subscription-based MMORPG, later going free-to-play in 2012. It has continued to reinvent itself periodically over the course of the last decade, with enough changes being made that the game is almost unrecognizable from its 3.0 to 6.0 versions, something that I guess is a blessing for new players and a curse for older veterans. The North American and European iterations both vary in terms of content available to players and even names of NPCs and classes, cities, the world, but the most drastic difference is the population. Since Europe is pretty large, I guess you can bet that there are significantly more players active on the European servers. North America pretty much gave up on the game years ago though. However, even despite all of that, Aion remains one of my favorite tab target MMOs that I have ever played. It has some of the best combat in the tab target scene, it has exceptional character creation, and while I'm not sure how it fares currently, it once had some of the most fun open world PvP that I have ever participated in. If you have watched pretty much any of my videos on anime MMOs, then you would know that I am really not all that fond of Aura Kingdom. It is an anime MMO that had been developed by X Legend, you know, the guys behind pretty much every reskinned anime MMO over the course of the 2010s, and it is published by Area Games, which is now Gamigo. So yeah, the game was originally released back in 2014 and has remained semi-active, at least for anime MMO standards, ever since. However, in terms of anime MMOs, if you're looking for something traditional, a nice, aesthetically pleasing anime game that has a variety of classes to choose between, a non-instanced world to explore with tons of other players, good quality tab target combat and dungeons to run, then this is a solid bet. Honestly, with the exception of its linear progression system and a terrible publisher behind it, at its core, Aura Kingdom is a good game. I could just never really get behind any of Area Games' games, and I always found that whole reskinning aspect of all of X Legends games really annoying, especially since they released one seemingly every other year. Albion Online is probably one of the more popular titles available right now, but I mean, that was not always the case. The game was released back in 2017, being developed and published by Sandbox Interactive in an attempt to recreate the player-driven world of Ultima Online. While the game spent 2 years as a buy-to-play MMO, in 2019 the team behind the game decided the only choice they had left if they didn't want to shut the game down was to undergo a business model change, and it worked. They took the game from averaging a couple hundred concurrent players to tens of thousands of concurrent active players at any given time during the day, completely changing the game's trajectory. The game is a complete sandbox MMO, providing a game completely void of classes, allowing players to play how they want, with whatever gear and weapons they want. You are what you wear. Since the game is a complete sandbox MMO, it has a fully player-driven economy and also provides full loop PvP zones, although from what I've heard, you're not really required to enter them if you really, absolutely do not want to. Silkroad Online is a very old game. The game launched back in 2005, being both developed and published internationally by Joymax. Interestingly enough, for a game released 15 years ago, its player base is still more active than various titles released a decade after it. That's not the only interesting aspect of the game though. Silkroad starts players off by choosing a weapon as opposed to a class. You then proceed to level up your class separately, depending on the weapon you have equipped, providing you the ability to level any specialization at any time. Job experience is earned through quests and grinding monsters, as is personal experience, but they're not shared, meaning that you can essentially be a level 30 character but a level 5 warrior. Admittedly, the game itself does feel dated with its point and click movement and click to attack combat style, but if that isn't an issue for you, then this should be a ton of fun. Shaiya is an MMORPG developed by Rock Games and published by Area Games back in 2007. While Shaiya may be a fairly basic traditional tab target MMO in 2020, back when it released, and heck, even up until just a few years ago, players would praise the game as if it were the best thing to have ever graced the MMO scene. While the game does definitely take a lot of inspiration from Lineage 2 and World of Warcraft, it provides players with a lot of customization over their classes, offers an active PvP system, but most importantly, and this is the feature that caught my attention, Shaiya actually has a hardcore mode that has a permadeath feature. Yeah, you can actually die permanently and lose everything that you would work towards. Everything. So, you know, if you're looking for a hardcore tab target MMO with permadeath, Shaiya is your bet. My only issue with the game is the current publisher, but that is pretty much the case with every free-to-play MMORPG. Ragnarok Online is one of the big OG MMOs. It was one of the first anime-inspired isometric MMORPGs to utilize a sprite graphical style, releasing all the way back in 2002. The game was developed and published by Gravity and has been receiving periodic updates in the form of episodes for almost 20 years now. If you haven't played Ragnarok Online, then you are truly missing out. While a lot of games have attempted to and failed to replicate what Ragnarok did to the genre, nothing comes close to the original. This game has so many classes that you could potentially waste the next decade and you still wouldn't have played every single one to endgame. Admittedly though, Ragnarok Online does use an older point and click movement system and the same type of combat system, but it truly shines in how diverse the game is and how much content that it provides its players. Rift is an open-world fantasy MMORPG developed and published initially by Aion Worlds in 2011 and is now published by Gamigo. Rift started off as a pay-to-play MMORPG as it was attempting to overthrow the titan that is World of Warcraft. Shortly after, Aion realized it had absolutely no chance and went on and converted to a free-to-play business model. Honestly, for an MMO that is almost a decade old, the game has aged pretty well. I just finished doing a video on Rift actually, and I will have that up sometime next week remake for those of you that are interested in seeing how it plays, but Mrs. Stix and I found the game to be a solid traditional experience. It has a very unique, large talent tree, providing a lot of customization over your character, a large, expansive class system, some great quality tab target combat, a large open world filled with monsters and quests. The only issue we found was how you went about leveling, with Intrepid Adventures making the vast majority of content obsolete. But I mean, you know, if you want to tackle the game as it should be, in its open world, then that is also definitely possible. Dream of Mirror Online is an anime MMORPG released back in 2007. The game was developed by Softstar and published by Area Games until 2012, after which Area opted to shut it down. Because, you know, that's pretty much what Area Games did. They published anime MMOs, they let them sit up for like a year or two, try to rake in as much money as they possibly could, and then they'd go and shut it down. It remained shut down until 2015 when Suba Games revived the game and decided to publish it within North America. This is one of the very few MMOs inspired by Chinese mythology. The game was well ahead of its time, allowing for players to not only explore a large open world, but also providing players the ability to swap between and level all of the game's classes at any time. Something that even today people claim is an innovative feature due to how little it's done. The game is tab target and definitely looks dated visually, but it is still an adorable anime MMO if you've never tried it out. Plus, I mean, you can fly in it. That is something that most MMOs, even in this day and age, opt out of because of how small and empty their worlds are. Closers Online is a hub-based MMO released back in 2017. The game is developed by Natick Games and published by NMAS Entertainment. This is one of the few hub-based MMOs left and has retained an active player base over its 3 years of life. The game functions primarily as a side-scrolling RPG, running into instances with a group or solo, whichever you prefer. You have varying difficulties to run, a plethora of different environments to play through, a surplus of bosses to defeat. There's a large selection of characters that you can create and play as, and there is a lot of customization and outfits. It has some of the best action combat in a game of its kind, something that I know is highly important for players. If you're looking for a story-driven anime title with great action combat, then this might be what you're looking for. Plus, it just received 2 large updates to Busan, so this is as good a time as any to jump in. And there we have it, 10 free-to-play MMORPGs you should totally try out in June 2020. These are all games that I have played, and honestly, they are all unique in their own way. If you haven't tried them out, I definitely urge you to go ahead and at least download one of them and see if it's something you might be interested in. But that is just my opinion, my impressions of the genre. What do you guys think though? Let me know down in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this and I'll see you all next time. Peace.